What's up, guys? We are inside our Oxnard facility here at Oxnard Movement. And today we're gonna do a little bit of talking about 4 different topics. We're gonna talk about the 10 general physical skills. We're gonna talk about the metabolic pathways, how we utilize energy. We're gonna talk about the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. And we're gonna talk about how we use intensity. Intensity is a big thing inside CrossFit. So I wanna tell you guys how we use it. The first thing that I wanna start out with is talking about the 10 general physical skills. In some capacity, you probably walking into our doors or some other CrossFit gym's doors because you want to be more fit. I also want to be more fit. Coach Brenda might also want to be more fit. Sal also maybe wants to be more fit as well. But we all might have different definitions of what it means to be fit. So I want to share with you what our definition is. So that I'm saying, hey, you're getting more fit, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And to be fit for us is to be competent across 10 general physical skills. Those 10 are cardio, stamina, strength, flexibility, coordination, agility, accuracy, and balance, and then power and speed. To be competent across these 10 general physical skills, what do I mean? I mean, if you were to give yourself a 1 to 10 score in all of these areas, we would score somewhere between a 6 and an 8. What I don't want out of somebody is somebody who scores a 10 on cardio because they can run a 3-hour or sub 3-hour marathon, but they score a 2 in flexibility because they can't touch their toes. We want to be balanced across all 10 of these different areas. Now, those top 4, cardio, stamina, strength, and flexibility, are physiological changes. We can actually see those changes happening inside the body. The bottom 4, coordination, agility, accuracy, and balance, are neurological changes. Those are adaptations that are happening between the ears or learning adaptations. And power and speed are a combination of both the physiological changes and the neurological changes. Now, power is a big one for us. And we like to measure power because in exercise physiology, power is exactly equal to intensity. So if something's more powerful, it's more intense. And if something's more intense, it's more powerful. The equation for power output is force times distance divided by time. That's a physics equation, super simple. But how do we translate that to inside here in the gym? We're basically looking at how heavy is something, how far am I moving it, and how long does it take me? So if I can move something that's heavier and I can move it further and I can do it in less time, those are things that are gonna be more powerful. And if it's more powerful, it's also gonna be more intense. We'll talk about intensity at the very end of the day. We get good adaptations from intensity, so we'll save that for later. The next thing I wanna talk about is our metabolic pathways. How do we utilize energy? Inside of our body, we have 3 main pathways for utilizing energy. We have our phosphocreatine system, we have our glycolytic system, and we have our oxidative system. Those first 2 are anaerobic, meaning they do not use oxygen. That last one, that oxidative system, does use oxygen. Those first 2 are very short and fast, right? You can think of things like a max height box jump or a 1 rep max lift or a 3 rep max lift as things that are gonna fall into that phosphocreatine or that glycolytic system. Somewhere between 0 to 60 seconds. And then that glycolytic, you're looking at somewhere between 3 minutes to 6 minutes. And then much outside of the 6-minute range, you're looking at mostly oxidative. These systems aren't independent of one another, so they're always using a mix of all of these, but which one is being utilized the most? Now, when we decide how we do our training here inside the CrossFit gym, we keep those things in mind. When we plan our month's worth of workouts for 30 days, you're gonna see about 20 of those 30 days that are planned within that middle time domain, somewhere between 6 and 15 minutes long. Then you're gonna see about 5 days that are planned for shorter than that, workouts that are less than 3 minutes long. Those are hard, fast, or heavy days. And then you're gonna see about 5 days that are 20 minutes or longer. And here's why we do that. When we split up our training like that, and we practice those things in the middle, guess what? We get better at those things in the middle. When we train those things in the middle, we get better at that short stuff. And when we train those things in the middle, we get better at that long stuff. But in order to get the full adaptation out of that short stuff, you guessed it, I gotta do some short stuff too. And in order to get the full adaptation out of that long stuff, I gotta do some long stuff too. Now, why does this all matter? We could draw a line connecting all 3 of these energy systems and connect the dots. And the area underneath that line would be your ability to do work, or what we call your work capacity. One of CrossFit's larger goals is to increase our work capacity across broad time and modal domains. All that means is I want you to be able to say yes to as much stuff as you want to say yes to. If it's biking, if it's swimming, if it's running, if it's lifting heavy things, if it's playing with your kids, if it's hiking, if it's backpacking, I just want you to be able to say yes to as much stuff as you want to say yes to. The higher we can get that curve in all areas, the more things you're going to be able to say yes to. I don't want anybody ever to be stopped in any capacity because someone asks them, hey, you want to go do this thing with me? And you think to yourself, I'm not sure if I'm physically capable of doing it. I want you to say yes to as much stuff as you can say yes to. The next thing that I want to talk about is our sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. This is our why that this facility and any other facilities that we have exist. And it is more important than the abs, than the looking good, than the feeling good, than the more energy. Those are all amazing, amazing side effects, but they are the secondary reasons on why we have this facility. And when you go into the doctor, we're going to talk about some biometrics or some vitals that the doctor would measure that can either list you as sick, well, or normal, or fit. So we're going to look at that middle category, that wellness category. We're going to look at a couple of different ones. Blood pressure, normal range is 120/80. Resting heart rate, 72 beats per minute. Body fat percentage, 18 to 22, 23% body fat. That's for males and females. Blood glucose, somewhere between 60 and 115 or 120 milliliters per deciliter on resting blood glucose. And there's normal ranges for an AC1 and bone density as well. We could go on and on and on and on with that list. The doctor could say that you're normal, you're not normal, or you're fit. We can go two directions from that normal. We can go left towards that fitness, and we can go, or left towards that sickness and right towards that fitness. On that left side, some of those biometric numbers might look like this. A blood pressure of 175/100, a resting heart rate of 100 beats per minute or more, body fat percentage of 35% or more, a resting blood glucose of 200 milliliters per deciliter or more, and low levels of bone density. Those numbers would be associated with some chronic illnesses. High blood pressure, hypertension, tachycardic or elevated resting heart rate, obesity, diabetes, and osteoporosis. All of those things on that left side, chronic illnesses. Great news about chronic illnesses though, is they're completely preventable and reversible with lifestyle, with eating well and exercising regularly. The other side of those metrics, that fitness side, what do those metrics look like when I am fit? That blood pressure might look like something like 105/75. It might look like a resting heart rate of 50 beats per minute or less. It might look like a body fat percentage of 12 to 16%. It might look like a blood glucose of 60 to 100 milliliters per deciliter, and it might look like increased levels of bone density. All of those things are in the opposite direction of the sickness. And I want to take you from normal, because we all sit somewhere on this curve, right? On this continuum. I want to take you from wherever you are, and I want to make you as fit as we possibly can. We do that here with our CrossFit, constantly varied functional movement performed at high intensities, but there's a number of different ways you could do that. And that's only half of the equation, because not only do I want you to get fit, but then I want you to stay fit. And we do that here with community. We're surrounding yourselves with other people who think it's important to eat well and exercise regularly. There's a ton of research around the power of association. Whoever you associate yourself with, you are more likely to do those things. Birds of a feather flock together, or you are what you eat. We've all heard that. Or another one is, you're the average of your 5 closest friends. So whoever you surround yourself with, you are more likely to do those things. Why do I want to surround myself with community? Because inevitably, we can't always eat like we want to, sleep like we want to, work happens, relationships get hard, life happens. And we start to slide back on that continuum. We move towards wellness or towards sickness. And it's not a matter of if it happens to me, but when it happens to me. I've firsthand have several examples in my own life when fitness has not been the top priority. Family stuff has happened, relationship stuff has happened, work stuff has happened, where fitness takes a backstand to other things that are in life. And when that happens, I want to be able to get well before I get sick. The other half of that is, yes, I may be moving down in my fitness, but I also need a supportive community to be there for me when I may not feel like being there. The best place to get back into fitness, to stay into health, is surrounding ourselves with those other people who think it's important to eat well and exercise regularly. What happens in those situations is if I go into the doctor and let's say that life event happens and it's been 2 or 3 years and I'm not eating well, I'm not exercising, I'm, super stressed out at work, I'm burnt out at home, I got a lot of stuff going on, and I maybe gained some weight as well, and my doc says to me, "Hey Colby, we gotta make some changes. We gotta start eating or start exercising, or we gotta take some meds, because we can't live with numbers like you've got." That conversation is not a conversation I want anyone to ever have with their doctor. And the reason that we exist as a facility is so that less of those conversations ever take place. I want you to get fit and stay fit so that you are not ever having those conversations with your doctor. Again, it's more important than having abs, than looking good, than feeling good, than sleeping better, than having fun. Those are all amazing, amazing side effects of what we do, but it's not the reason that we do it. Lastly, we got to talk about some intensity. In exercise physiology, we talk about power is exactly equal to intensity. We also have some exercise physiology the research shows that intensity is the independent variable most commonly associated with favorable adaptations to training. That just means that intensity drives results. We get fit when we use intensity, but we have to approach intensity very meticulously. And the way that we do it, mechanics first, then consistency, and then and only then intensity. And I'll give an analogy why we do that. Driving on the freeway. In the last couple of days, I want you to think of when you drove on the freeway. Maybe it was 75 miles an hour, maybe it was a little bit faster. When we drive on the freeway at 75 miles an hour, that is objectively very dangerous. 75 miles an hour, if something happens to my vehicle where I lose control or roll over, the likelihood of bad things happening is very, very high. Now I want you to think about how you felt when you were driving on the freeway. Did you feel like you were in danger? Yeah, maybe sometimes there's somebody crazy that's doing something, but majority of the time, we do not feel like we are in danger. And that's because you have built the mechanics and the consistency, what I call the competence and the confidence to do that safely while mitigating the risk. Why do we still drive on the freeway if it is super risky? The benefits far outweigh the risks, right? Driving on the freeway gives us an ability to go wherever we would like in a small amount of time. That benefit almost outweighs all of the risks, but we try to also mitigate that as much as we possibly can by learning how to drive properly and practicing it consistently. The same thing is true here inside this gym. I want to teach you the mechanics first, how to lift well, and I want to see you do it consistently before I ask you to go hard, heavy, or fast. That is the best way to approach intensity, and you will get to use intensity down the road because we know it drives results, but it is not necessary to get fit. But if I know that there's a tool that I can use, that intensity, that will get me more fit, I want to do all steps necessary to prepare me to use that tool. So we want to use intensity, we have to prepare for it. In our facilities, if you're just starting out, we will not throw you into that group class. You'll do some sort of onboarding one-on-one with a coach so that you learn that mechanics and you're consistent in them. You gain some competence and you gain some confidence before we throw you into any sort of class. Thank you for listening today. Hope we see you out here.